I want a side by side for the camera to mount on and the guide scope. So that's a base plate, and I'm thinking probably I'll put this on the bottom and turn it to dovetail. So there's a standard dovetail mount that you use to connect, to put stuff onto the mount. So if I machine one of them up, and then that would be on the bottom for that, and then use this material to make up mounts. A mate of mine who may be coming over later on today has made his own side-by-side mount, and what he's done is he's put dovetails that can be clamped in on each side. I can probably insert a photo of that. I got a bit carried away and I haven't been making updates, but this is the camera mount, or side-by-side mount, as far as I've got it. So this here, I'm drilling holes in for the side here. There'll be the last 20 mil, I think, 40 mil deep, or 30 mil deep, will be up here will be 6 mil, and these are 6 mil threaded rod. While I throw this on the floor, 6 mil threaded rod. So that'll guide this jaw, and then I'm going 10 millimeter deep at the diameter of those springs. So that means that I can, with these here, these are right through, so they'll be drilled and tapped in here, so I can wind this jaw out by maybe 15 millimeters, and then that's the other side of the dovetail, so there'll be something like that sitting in there. This will be on here, so obviously that's down flat, and that will sit in here. These will have the dovetail angle machined on them, and that'll be screwed onto there, and that'll be screwed onto there, whatever I deem the appropriate position to give me the maximum flexibility. And obviously the same on this side. These are some plates I machined up, and these are going to be dovetailed, same as this. It's a slightly thinner plate, but the same angle on there. It's a 75-degree dovetail. So one of those goes on, well, it doesn't matter, that can be the bottom, goes onto here. One of them goes onto here, and that will screw into the mount, telescope mount, and that'll hold it, and you can slide it across in this. Then that whole thing can slide across in the head to balance the weight. And on the other side, one side will have the camera, and I have looked up, well, a mate, I'm pinching this design from my mate Jeff. If you ever watch this, thank you for all your help. But that there'll be a support for the lens. You can buy a unit for about $50 or something plus delivery that would hold that. But I kind of feel like, well, it seems retired. I didn't mean to, but it sort of happened. And I'm making time for things. So I need to fill up my days. and this is the sort of stuff that I've been so stressed out with stuff I've been doing at work, that I haven't been able to get my head around it. So I may as well, I think, design my own mount. Now, on the other side, my own camera mount. On the other side, we have this little telescope, this little finderscope, rusty from sitting out in my observatory that hasn't been used. And that'll be clamped in there. And this will have a little gyroscope on it. And this will allow me to use this lens. And I'll try and make something that's flexible enough that if I decide to get another lens, say I'm thinking maybe a 200mm fixed focal length or something like that, depending on how this goes. But I want to do this. There's certain targets that I haven't imaged that even with my small telescope, they're larger than the field of view I've got isn't big enough to get the whole target. And there are ways of doing that, and I will work up to that. You can do mosaics where you take a series of tink, 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 and you join them all together, and you can get a higher resolution shot of larger objects. But I will, maybe I'll start doing that later on. But right now, I'm this camera here has had a filter removed from it, so it sees down into the hydrogen alpha where you have emission nebula, red nebula. So it's more sensitive to that. And I've built this whole water cooled setup to keep that camera cool when imaging for very long exposures. I was doing 15-minute exposures for 6 hours at a time. But I think for this wide field sort of stuff, I probably don't need that. And if I can avoid it, it's good because it's all less power. And with this setup, I'm hoping that with a battery I already own, I tried it on my mount. The neighbours have just arrived home from school, sounds like. The mount itself drove off this thing. I ran it for this battery, and I ran it for 14 hours. That's longer than I'm ever going to need. This camera, I've got 2 batteries. I do want to have it so that it's going to be tricky. It'd be very nice if I could have it so I mounted this so I could change the battery, which goes here, without taking everything apart. So that'll be one of my design criteria, I think, because I do have 2 batteries. I did have, and I sold to a mate, and a setup that meant you could run it off a 12-volt battery. You put in a blank battery and wire comes out, and you can run it off a 12-volt. But I don't have that now. Anyway, two batteries I think would get me a fair bit of time. And what I want with this, the whole point of this setup, is to have something that's, I don't know, might seem a bit ridiculous to say this, but quick to set up and easy to use. And in my world, this is what it takes to be quick and easy to set up if you want to do the sort of photography I like doing. So anyway, I'll keep going on this, and I'll update you when I get a bit more done. New day here. So last night I got all the these drilled, and so now this is ready. I'm about to do the holes for that, and it's very important because all of these things have to slide that everything's in line. And if I put this, well, hang on, line this up to the top, and I've got the drill chuck in, it's just a bit too tall for the machine. Now I can put my collet in, and that gets me extra height. But I'm thinking that I might shorten this down here or something. The width of this was arbitrary. It was kind of what I could get. Sorry, I could bring them in and shorten that up. I might check. Jeff sent me his dimensions, but I may have to just shorten it up. And this shows the level you go to avoid changing setups. Yeah, I've just stuck that down on the side there so I can clean up this face. Ooh, actually I need to turn it around because it's that face I want to clean up. There you go. But yeah, tucking it on that end of the table without moving that vise to clean up the face where I shortened it up means that I don't have to well, it's less important here, but it means I don't have to take the vise off. I'm going to have to swing this around 90 degrees and re-true it, but anyway, it's just a bit of a time saver. Here's my first dovetail, and I made it the same as this one, which trust me, it is. So I did it by you swing that head and then turned the vise. But I've got limited travel on the y-axis here. I had to move this to get the complete length, and that's not very long. How long is it? Yeah, that's about 165 mil. About 6.5 inches. So I'm thinking that when I'm done with this, I might look at making up a jig to allow me to put material on, have something that can roll back and set an angle here, and it might be handy to have the capacity to do dovetails. Anyway, on with the next one. Here's the, we've already seen all those. Well, now I've managed to drill and tap these on both ends. Wasn't quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. Was maxing out my machine, but I just had to use the collet chuck instead of the standard drill truck to get the extra height, and it worked fine. So I've checked and it all goes together. So now I'm getting ready to put these other sides of the clamps on. There's another one there somewhere. I'll find it when I stop looking. Anyway, oh, there it is. So they'll go like that, and then I've checked and I should be able to put one of these and that on. It's got a little tab at the back, so I'll have to put some sort of a accommodation in. I mean, I can just overhang it over the back, which I may do, or I can just put a little cut in to allow that to come forward a little bit more, but we'll see how we feel. Okay, next bit, and I'm getting close. Okay, so we're on here now. I want to put this under the bottom of that way, and then that will allow me to put it onto the equatorial mount, and then this I need to make a mount to mount that properly onto here and support the lens. But if I undo these, she comes out and that's all sprung, so that all works. So thank you, Jeff, for letting me pinch your ideas and bringing them over here so I could even look at them. But that's more or less how it's going to sit. I was talking to another mate over in at the astronomy club meeting I was at, and he mentioned you can use old fire extinguishers as rings. It's a little tight. Well, that's actually touching on the bottom, but that does fit over that lens. I pulled it all apart, made sure there's no pressure and everything, and then cut it. And I can cut rings out of this and make a support for there if I want. I've got some nylon screws that I can use to allow me to put pressure onto here. But yeah, I'm getting there. Now here's the finished product for the side-by-side mount on the equatorial mount. So obviously I've got a dovetail under here, so that if I loosen off this part of the mount, I can slide that across to get balance between. It'll have to be this way because that's going to weigh a lot less than the camera, but it means that I can move that across to wherever and lock it. So apart from some polish, yeah, this all works as it should, and that is nice. I may drill another pair of holes to bring this, potentially you could choose which position you put it in, because I've only got about 5mm of thread in here, and for the sake of 2 more holes, maybe 10mm across, or 8mm across or something here, that would allow me to yeah, if I did that, it'd allow me a little bit more thread in here. I don't think it's a problem because I'm not going to be tightening it up any more than it is, but I'd still rather not, better safe than sorry. But I think I'm going to call it this on this video, and do a separate video on the on what I do to mount the camera onto the other over here, because I don't want to make this too long. It's already too long. Alright, so I'll put this one up, and well, I might start straight on this camera mount, but you'll see this video first.